Okay, so what if I told you that the biology we all learned in school is wrong? And I don't mean just a little bit wrong. I mean fundamentally missing the single most important part of how our bodies actually work. Today, we're going to dive into the work of biophysicist James L. Oshman, who lays out a pretty radical new model for the human body, one that's not based on slow, clunky chemistry, but on instantaneous energy. So let me just start by asking you this. What if that basic model of the cell you learned about in high school was just flawed? What if our bodies are running on a system that's way faster, way more connected, and a whole lot more energetic than we've ever been led to believe? The field we're exploring here is called energy medicine, and the basic idea is that we can use energy, in its various forms, to help our tissues repair themselves. At its heart is a really simple but profound concept. Your body isn't just a chemical factory. It's a dynamic, super fast, energetic communication network. Now, to really get this new model, we first have to kind of deconstruct the old one. We have to look at the operating system that conventional biology tells us we're running on. And as you're about to see, it might be seriously out of date. We all remember this picture from our textbooks, right? The classic animal cell. And the story we were told is that a cell is basically just a bag of goo. And inside that bag, all the important stuff happens because molecules are just randomly floating around until they happen to bump into each other. This whole process is called diffusion. And honestly, it's like trying to find your friend in a massive crowded stadium just by wandering around with your eyes closed. It's incredibly slow. And this pretty much sums up James Oshman's response to that whole textbook model. His work basically argues that this bag of solution idea is, to put it bluntly, total baloney. And here's the real problem. If everything in our bodies truly moved at the snail's pace of random diffusion, our very existence would be a paradox. Oshman argues that this old model doesn't just fall short, it makes it flat out impossible to explain the incredible speed of human life, from a simple reflex all the way up to an athlete performing at their absolute peak. I mean, think about it. A 95-mile-per-hour fastball gets to home plate in about 400 milliseconds. That's less than half a second. How on earth can a batter see the pitch, process all that information, and swing a bat with perfect accuracy if his cells are all communicating through slow, random chemical reactions? According to that old model, there's no way. It's impossible. So if the bag of solution model is out, what's in? Well, this is where Oshman proposes a totally new model for how our body communicates with itself. He calls it the living matrix. You can think of it like we're finally upgrading our body's old, slow operating system. So let's start with the big picture. Oshman's model starts with this idea that your body is not a collection of separate parts. It's actually one single, continuous web of interconnective connective tissue. You might know it as fascia. And this web runs through absolutely everything, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And this is where it gets really mind-blowing. This web doesn't just stop at the outside of your cells. It actually goes inside every single cell in your body. It connects to the cell's internal scaffolding, its skeleton, and from there it links all the way down into the nucleus and connects to your actual DNA. So how is that even possible? Well, the key players are these tiny molecules called integrins. You can think of them like little communication ports that are studded all over the cell membrane. They create a physical, energetic, hardwired connection from the world outside the cell to the world deep inside the cell. It makes everything one seamless, totally integrated network. So when you put these two models side by side, the difference is just staggering. The old model, that's biological dial-up internet. Slow, random, and super inefficient. The living matrix model? Now we're talking about a fiber optic network. It's capable of virtually instantaneous communication using electronic and energetic signals that travel through this incredible body-wide web. Okay, but wait a minute. Where does all this energy for these super fast signals even come from? Well, to answer that, we have to take a quick jump from biology into the wonderfully strange world of quantum physics. And hey, don't worry if this next part feels a little out there. As the great physicist Richard Feynman himself said, if you think you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics. It's supposed to feel weird. So get this. Physicists like John Archibald Wheeler have actually calculated the amount of energy present in a single cubic centimeter of what we think of as empty space, the vacuum. And the number they came up with is astronomical. We're talking about a 10 with 104 zeros after it. To try and put that into perspective, the total energy in all of the matter in the entire known universe is just a tiny, tiny fraction of that. And this leads to what is probably Oshman's most radical idea. He proposes that the living matrix isn't just a passive wiring system. He suggests it might actually function like a biological antenna, one that's capable of tapping into this immense fundamental energy of the universe itself.
Okay, I know, that is a huge concept. So let's bring it back down to earth a bit. How does this whole energetic model relate to our actual everyday lives? To things like trauma and healing and even peak performance.
Well, for one, this model offers a completely new way to think about trauma. A researcher named William Redpath suggested that trauma doesn't just leave a psychological scar, it leaves a physical, energetic signature right in the body's matrix. He called this preverbal, meaning it's a memory stored in the tissues outside of our conscious thoughts and the stories we tell. And the implication of that is huge. It means it could potentially be accessed and resolved directly on an energetic level. Now, on the flip side, what does a perfectly functioning living matrix look like? Well, Oshman suggests it looks a lot like peak human performance. Think about an elite athlete who's just in the zone. Their movements seem effortless, almost faster than thought. This theory suggests that's not just muscle memory. It could be a fully tuned matrix operating at maximum efficiency. And this brings us right back to our baseball player. Turns out, a study from way back in 1950 confirmed what seems obvious. There simply isn't enough time for the nervous system alone to pull off that kind of feat. The reaction is just too fast. It strongly suggests that another, much faster system has to be at play, a system that looks a lot like the living matrix. So what does this all mean? What's the big takeaway here? Well, it fundamentally changes how we see the human body, and it gives a real scientific foundation to a word that we hear all the time but maybe don't fully appreciate, the word holistic. And this is really the ultimate point. We are not just a collection of separate parts working together. We are one, single, uninterrupted, interconnected whole. The living matrix, this web connecting every organ, every cell, all the way down to our DNA, that is the scientific meaning of a holistic organism. And so we're left with this fundamental question posed by the biologist Andrew Packard, a question this new model really tries to answer. It asks us to reconsider not just our biology, but the very nature of what it means to be a living, unified whole. It's a pretty profound thought to end on. Thanks for digging into all this with me.